Hey everybody, it's Charlie from Daily Motor, and I am a truck enthusiast. I've owned everything from 6-liter and 7.3 F350s all the way down to our little Ford Maverick that we had for a number of years, and I tried to get in as many pickup trucks as possible on the new car market here for review. I just love how they combine nice, comfortable, functional interiors with the usability and lifestyle capabilities of the truck bed. I am a motorcycle enthusiast as well. I like camping and going out and mountain biking, all sorts of things that complement themselves to just throwing things in a dirty pickup truck bed, hopping in and driving away. So this year I've been fortunate enough to drive nearly every 1500 series truck on the market. We had the Ram, that was the Rebel X or Rebel, yeah, whatever Rebel that was. That was right around the time that my daughter was born, so that was a quick review. We had the F-150 Power Boost, as well as the 5-liter V-8 in the Tremor. We had the Toyota TRD Rally. That was kind of a fun little spec of that truck. The only one that we have not gotten to spend time in is the Sierra. We did drive a Sierra EV recently, but that's not quite the same. And that's because GM, as a media fleet, doesn't tend to promote products that are selling very well. They try to push vehicles that need a little bit more help. So they don't generally give us many full-size trucks because the Silverado and the Sierra generally have no problem selling. However, they did still have this 6.2-liter High Country model available. They kind of like to show off all the bells and whistles. So this is about as nice of an F-150 as you can find. Again, has that great 6.2-liter small block V8 motor. Love that. We've got all-wheel / four-wheel drive, depending on how you look at it. 22-inch wheels, the shorter bed configuration, and a good bit of bells and whistles. So today we're going to go over my pros and cons with the truck, maybe some light comparison to the other full-size trucks that we've driven this year, and we'll put it on the Daily Motor leaderboard. Now, quick shout out to the sponsor of today's video. It is LaceFit, like it has been for many. However, interestingly, not floor mats. Partially maybe because the High Country already comes with some rubberized floor mats, very similar to the LaceFit mats that we typically show off. But no, today it is their LED lights. These are the new LaceFit Pro Series lights, and the reason that they are not in the truck is because this top-level High Country model comes with very nice LED headlights. They're quite bright, especially when you have the brights on. Are those LEDs or are those halogens? No, those are LEDs in there. Okay, looks like another halogen projector as well, though. But if you get something more like a classic or a work truck model, maybe even some of the LT configurations, you're not going to have the nicest and most functional headlights. So LaceFit offers these. These are the highest end headlights they make, I believe. These ones, with my code, going to run you just over $300. No discount, close to almost $400 after tax. And that's because they replace both the low beams and the high beams, and they are going to give you some serious light coverage. If you drive your truck at night, often you're definitely going to want some sort of upgraded bulbs. But because they just swap in to the factory housings, they should still theoretically not blast other people coming down the road with light. Obviously, if you have your high beams on, that's going to be a different story. But the cool thing is these are completely plug and play. You can just swap out the lights that go into, that come from your more basic Silverado or Sierra. I think they also make these for the F250 and F350 and the heavy duty Sierras and Silverados as well. And they make them for the Ford Transit too. But they are going to make a significant difference. And they also have that 1600K pure white color, so maybe a little bit whiter than some of the bulbs that might be coming out of your truck. Definitely something from the older trucks. So, full disclosure, I cannot necessarily speak to the efficacy of these bulbs. I usually like to promote the floor mats because I'm literally using them throughout the week and I'm showing you how nice and functional they are. But LaceFit, a company that I've been working with quite a bit here, they asked me to promote these, and so I want to give full disclosure to you all. You can view these videos that LaceFit has to kind of show how different the bulbs are from the factory bulbs and how much of a difference they make. But I cannot fully tell you that I've used them and tested them. So if you are interested, if you have been already considering upgrading the lights in your Silverado or a similar work type vehicle and these would fit, I recommend them as a brand. I did actually put a different set of LaceFit bulbs in my F350, and they made a world of difference. I was very happy with them. I just can't speak specifically to these individual products right here, but I can speak to the brand, and they support the channel, so I support them. And if you need some headlights, go check them out at the link below and get you a nice 18% off. But starting out with my cons here with the Silverado High Country. Now, some of these cons are going to be High Country specific. Some are going to be a little bit more general to the 1500 series Silverado. But the first one's the styling. I've never been a big styling of this generation of Silverado. I just haven't. Some of the more basic ones actually look a little bit better to me, but this giant grille, and then the way these headlights kind of are on top, and then they have this LED swoosh, but then nothing down here. This is just empty black plastic. I think the Sierra is such a cooler looking truck. The looks for this one have never really done it for me. And we still kind of have the square wheel arches that were characteristic to the Silverado, but they're also sort of rounded now. I've got nothing wrong with the back styling. It just looks like an truck, but I do think most of the other trucks on the market look better than this one. It's never really done it for me. For the next con, we gotta hop in the driver's seat here, and it is the ergonomics. It's kind of hard to describe to some of you all, and maybe if you're Silverado owners, you might not quite notice it, but we drive so many new vehicles week in and week out that I can tell you that much of using this truck doesn't feel intuitive or natural. It comes down to even things like the turn signal stalk is further away than it should be, so my hand is having to reach further in order to use the turn signal. The shifter, this big clunky back and forth shifter, when my hand is naturally reaching up here for a column shifter. So there's all sorts of space here. Why didn't you give us this column shifter and then open up this big center console area? This could have been so much more room for storage and functionality. Instead, especially compared to the other full-size trucks, we have very limited storage and places to put things in this truck compared to its competitors, or sometimes even smaller trucks. I mean, yeah, the center console is large, and fortunately you still have this little storage area, but again, that's just hard plastic, no sort of grippiness there, so if you put something in, it's going to slide around. Also, no big storage area up here like we get in a lot of other trucks. So again, the general interior layout and ergonomics and functionality, aside from the physical controls, which we're going to talk about in the pros column, it's just disappointing to me, and it doesn't make for a truck that feels good to use. Next con, the infotainment system. And it's actually not the functionality of the infotainment system, it's two main aspects. One, the processing power. We own a Chevy. We've actually owned two Chevys recently, and I like the way the infotainment works, but the responsiveness and the general load time of various screens, it makes it so the system doesn't feel as fluid and as smooth and high-end as a lot of other systems out there on the market. So if they could put more power in or generally optimize the code, something like that, to make it a faster, more responsive, and higher definition system, that would be nice. And then also, I've had Android Auto drop out multiple times while using it. Theoretically speaking, could that be my phone's fault? Yes. But again, I've used the same phone for the last year across all sorts of vehicles and have not had that problem. So it makes me think that it's the car. For the next con, we start the truck up and listen to one of my favorite engines on the new car market, the Chevy 6.2 V8. Now, interestingly enough, this motor is arguably starting to get outclassed. And it's a bit sad because pretty much every other powertrain on the market from the full-size trucks, the top ones, so we're talking the 3.5 twin turbos and the 3-liter inline 6 from Ram, those all make quite a bit more power, especially from the torque figure. 460 pound-feet, 420 horsepower from this engine. But in day-to-day usability, that's plenty. It really is. And the sound that this engine makes and the general characteristics, especially paired up to this 10-speed automatic, it just makes me feel like I'm driving a good classic V8 truck. I like the feel of it. I like the characteristics. So I am okay with not getting maybe quite as much power and capability as the other powertrains. I like the simplicity and the character of the 6.2. Next con out here on the road are the driving dynamics of the Silverado 1500. You get into something like an F-150 or a Tundra or a Ram 1500, and they almost drive like a car. Between the suspension comfort, the general characteristics, it's remarkable how comfortable 1500 series trucks have become. The Silverado doesn't seem to have fully gotten that message. This almost feels like driving a 2500 series truck from some of the other manufacturers. It rides rougher. It steers more cumbersomely. The way you look out over the hood and around the vehicle, all of it feels more like a classic lumbering truck. Now, some people are going to appreciate that. And admittedly, if I were buying something more like a work truck, LT, a custom, something like that, I'd be more okay with that. But if we're talking luxury trucks, if we're talking something like this High Country, I want to feel like I'm in a luxury vehicle. I want to feel like this is almost a Cadillac. And that just is not the case. The throttle is jumpy. The ride is firm. Everything about this still feels like a body-on-frame truck. And again, some people are going to appreciate that. But when it comes to the high-end trucks, that's not what I'm looking for. The next con, dynamic fuel management. I like the 6.2 liter. We're going to talk about that later on in the pros section. But the fact that you have cylinder deactivation is going to take away from the long-term longevity of this engine. Now, GM claims to have refined the system, but that means it can go all the way down to 2 cylinders at some point. It used to just be 4 or 8. Now it can drop all the way down to 2 cylinders. And it's hard to really know what sort of long-term effects that's going to have on the reliability of this truck. I don't know, man. I don't trust it. And if it were my truck, I would be purchasing some sort of defeat device for the fuel management. Yes, I might lose 1 or 2 miles per gallon in overall driving, but it would extend the longevity of the engine. Coming back here static for my pros. And the first one might seem subtle, but it's actually the ride height of this truck. Look how easy it is for me to reach into this pickup truck bed. I'm 5'10". I'm by no means a tall person, but I can actually get into the bed here. It's not crazy high and lifted up. It seems like so many 1500 series trucks that we drive recently are just so high up in the air that the bed functionality is so difficult to use. It's simple, but I've actually kind of appreciated not having to climb up in here. Now, having said, it would look a little bit cooler if it were a little bit taller, but from a functionality standpoint, I like it. And next, from a functionality standpoint, I know we talked in the con section about the general ergonomics and layout and functionality of the interior, but I will give Chevy credit for keeping so many physical controls. All of these physical climate controls, physical individual switches for heated and cooled seats and heated steering wheel and active lane keeping, traction control, the headlights even. A lot of the new Chevys, you have to control the headlights in the screen. So I do appreciate that they still kept this appropriately sized screen and all of these physical controls. Now, if only they could have done something better with the shifter and given us a place to put our sunglasses, then it would have aced the interior layout. On top of that, no gimmicks in the Silverado High Country. If you get into a lot of the new kind of high-end trucks from Ram or Ford, they've got all these gimmicks around. Like the Ram has this silly screen on the passenger side that no one is going to use. They're just going to use their phones or tablets instead. They've got things like, oh, you open this up and you get a protractor on the upper side here. Or with the Ford, you can let the shifter fold down and then open this way up for a place. They say it's to use your laptop, but really it's for eating cheeseburgers. The Silverado is much more straightforward and not wasting time and effort and resources into kind of silly, like, oh, made in America for 117 and a half years or anything like that. It's just a truck. It just has functionality and works and kind of eschews all of those fancy little elements. I mean, you saw the little bit of kind of a screen animation as it started up, this little High Country thing. But other than that, it's pretty simple. The last pro, and it is a huge one, is GM's Super Cruise. It is by and far the best active driving functionality on the market. If I get up to speed here, very easy to do with the 6.2, turn on the cruise control, hit set, and then the wheel, all of a sudden the truck is driving for me. Now, it might not last super long because the highway is ending here soon, but you could drive for hundreds of miles with the truck driving for you. And look, it just changed lanes for me because that Tesla up there was going slower than we were, changed lanes and continued on its way. Ford's Blue Cruise is not in the same ballpark as this. Neither is Ram Systems, and Toyota doesn't even have a competitor. So if I were somebody who were doing lots of miles in my truck, I would highly consider getting a GM product solely for the Super Cruise. Now, unfortunately, with the Silverado, if I'm remembering correctly, you can only get it in the top level trims. Maybe it's even just High Country, whereas now with the Suburban and the Tahoe, you can get it in much lower trims, which I appreciate. So theoretically speaking, we'll have some sort of update coming to the Silverado here soon, so you can get Super Cruise in lower trims. But for me, the fact that you can use the system even with towing, it's the only semi-autonomous driving functionality that can be used for towing. That is such a huge selling point that I would be able to overlook a lot of this truck's faults if I were somebody who was going to utilize Super Cruise often. So, wrapping up my thoughts here with the Chevy Silverado High Country. I don't like coming down hard on a product. And this is a perfect example of a new car that, on paper, there's nothing wrong with this truck. It's still going to be safe. It's still going to be greatly functional. Everything works fine with this truck. It's still a vastly better product than anything you could buy 10, 20, 30 years ago. But the new truck marketplace is fierce, and manufacturers are putting big money into trucks, and customers are paying big money in order to get those trucks. That being said, this High Country is quite a bit less expensive than a Ford F-150 Limited, than a Ram Tungsten, than a Capstone Tundra, or even than the Denali Ultimate version of the GMC Sierra. So, I understand that you're paying less for this High Country than those, so it's not an exact apples to apples comparison. But if you are trying to get the best of what you can get in a 1500 series truck here in 2025, almost 2026, it just isn't. It just isn't the Silverado. To me, I would be more okay with much about this truck in a lower spec trim. I'd be okay with the simpler sound system. I'd be okay with the simpler layout. I'd be okay with the more trucky driving dynamics if I only paid $55,000 and not $72,000, I believe as this one is. Maybe even more than that. Let me double check. Check that. $80,000. This is not an $80,000 truck. I'm sorry. And I'm sure Chevy's going to throw a bunch of money on the hood. You could probably walk out of a dealer with some huge discounts, but it's just not up there with the other full-size trucks when it comes to sort of a luxury perspective. It simply isn't. So with that, we do have to put the Silverado 1500 High Country on the Daily Motor Leaderboard. Current leaders of the Daily Motor Leaderboard: Ford F-150, Hyundai Santa Fe, and then Honda Passport. Now let's take a look at some competitors. Interestingly, the Chevy Suburban in RST form is in 18th place. That one I liked. I think the Suburban is a much better buy than an Expedition and a Sequoia. So in the kind of family hauler categories, it's flipped. Chevy does a really great job. And then we got to move down through. Let's see, Tundra TRD Rally's in 27th place, Ram 2500's in 29th, Ram 1500 33rd place. That might be a little bit more because it was the Rebel X. Oof. This, to me, I'm sorry, Chevy, if you watch this. It's not personal, but there it is. 34th place behind the Ram 1500. There's just, like I said, maybe a lower model I'd be more interested in. but this isn't a very desirable product to me, and especially at $80,000, just don't spend your money on it. I really wouldn't. Get yourself maybe the least expensive 6.2 you can get, drive the wheels off of it. So thank you all so much for watching. If you do want to see more on the truck, check the link below for our highway fuel economy test and our Bose 7-speaker sound system review. Big shout out to LaceFit. If you need some new bulbs for your truck or other vehicle, I highly recommend checking them out. And we'll see you on the next one. I'm Charlie from Daily Motor, and as always, drive on.